Perfect. New Alien movie popping out next month. So let's flap our gums about the first 3 Alien films. But viewers beware, a new asshole Altair. I'm not gonna shy away from the flaws of these movies, of which there are many. So here we go. Brutal. But look, I feel I was tough but fair. Now on to Aliens. Whew. Well, now that we got all that out of the way, let's talk about my favorite Alien film. Yeah, I know, Mom. Yeah, I know you raised me better than that. Yeah, I know we're an Aliens household. I'm just kidding. Alien 3 is truly atrocious. Can you imagine, though? However, I do have an appreciation for this movie that you might find offensive to your religion, your politics, as well as all 5 senses. Chapter 1. Why do people hate it? Why do people's asses clam up so much when they think about Alien 3? Well, the first one was so... and the second one was just so... bitch! But then the third one was so... Isn't that great? I don't even need to make any intelligible points. We can just cut to clips of the movies. Well, yeah, cut this out, obviously. We are now entering the shit era of the Alien films. I'm not saying these movies are objectively bad, I'm just saying that they're shit. And maybe you like shit. Alien and Aliens are beautiful. Horrific, yet beautiful. But let's face it, Alien 3 is butt-ass ugly. It is viscerally unpleasant to experience. You've got one of Hollywood's greatest future directors tapped to do the film, and
it was a disaster.
If you're not aware, David Fincher went through hell on this project. The studio constantly interfered, and he just did his best with what he had. From what I understand, he didn't have anything to do with the script, nor did he even like it. So absolutely none of my critiques are aimed at him or any of the cast. Another reason people might dislike this movie is because of the stupid characters.
This is a maximum security prison, and you have no weapons of any kind?
We're on the honor system.
But they're supposed to be stupid. That's part of the story. Ripley is challenged to pretty much solve this problem on her own because she's babysitting a bunch of croutons.
No need to be sarcastic.
But the problem that I have with the movie personally is this. Actually, before we get started, as Judge Wallace has pointed out, I have a tendency to get a little carried away with things like this, so I'm gonna be doing some breathing exercises in order to keep myself level. Let's just breathe in. I cannot stand it when movies kill off legacy characters. Chapter 2, why do I hate it? And out. My love for Star Wars died with Han Solo. And yeah, spoiler alert, sorry, whatever, but The Force Awakens is like almost 10 years old now. Did you know that? That doesn't make you want to yourself, I don't know what will.
You can't say yourself anymore.
Why not?
I don't know. YouTube, it thinks it's scary when you say that. You're supposed to say unalive yourself now.
I'm not a small child. Why would I say those words?
I don't know, man. People are sensitive nowadays, so you're supposed to make it sound fun and silly now. For the adults.
Now, if that doesn't make you want to go lie down long time, sleepy weepies, I don't know what will. The currency of screenwriting is drama. Doesn't matter whether it's positive or negative, just an emotional response from the audience. And it's my belief that the mindset of many writers is, if you have a character that people love, then not killing them is leaving money on the table. So when this happened, I was disappointed, sure, but more so than that, I lost faith that the minds behind Star Wars had my best interests at heart. They wanted to manipulate me into having an emotional response in that moment. That was their priority, and it came first over making a movie that fit into the saga as a logical and satisfying follow-up to the original. I think that's what bugs me the most about it. It's not that these moments can't improve the movies that they're in, but that's all they do. They often sacrifice our fond memories of the series as a whole in exchange for a drama cash out in this one movie, which is just never a worthy trade for me. So back to fucking, what movie are we talking about?
Alien 3, rated R, starts Friday at theaters everywhere.
This movie is probably the worst and by worst I mean best, example in history of the writer's sequel character kill trick thingy. We'll come up with a better name for that, right? So Alien 3 isn't a reboot, but it's an equal slap in the face to Star Wars because Aliens promised us a happy life for these characters, or at least a life, and that promise is immediately broken in the first 5 minutes of this movie. If you watch these movies back to back, you literally go from this
Sleep tight.
Affirmative.
to this. The way I see it, killing legacy characters is either a cheap trick to synthesize drama or a trick of convenience because a character's presence became a problem. Now, something that makes Newt dying even worse is the fact that in a story, you usually don't want the same thing to happen to a character twice. It's redundant. But if you go by the extended version of Aliens, Ripley already lost a daughter. And the whole point of the Newt storyline is that that was Ripley's second chance at being a mother. So if you put Aliens and Alien 3 back to back, the story becomes Ripley's daughter dies, and then Ripley's daughter dies. You essentially would never want to write a movie that way. Ripley would have no arc. And sure enough, she ends up exactly how she started in Aliens. So what was the point of this?
Oh, God.
And this?
Dwayne. It's Dwayne.
Ellen.
And this?
Not bad for a human.
You essentially render all of Aliens completely meaningless. But that's not all. They do that thing a second time. Not with a legacy character, but with a character we've been getting to know for an hour at this point. Clemens tells his long tragic backstory halfway through the movie.
It's a long, sad story.
And then dies literally 52 seconds later. And the story is long, and Ripley even asks to hear it numerous times throughout the movie, as if any of it fucking matters, because Clemens is just dispatched immediately after telling it, halfway through the movie. Meaning, all that character development with him in the first half? Completely pointless. Now, I'm nothing if not forgiving. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. I'm sure Clemens' death will go on to impact Ripley's character arc in a meaningful way in the second half of the film. They literally never mention him again. I'm not even exaggerating. Okay, I'm exaggerating just a teaspoon. They mention him here.
You got Clemens?
And here.
You missed Doc, right?
Makes you say that.
Done. But what's not an exaggeration is how this is the entirety of the effect his death has on Ripley. I am not effing you in the E. That's it. You could argue that the reason that Clemens died was so that her task would be more difficult without him as a partner. A sudden, unexpected death halfway through the movie or later can work. Absolutely. Let's take a look at a few. Harry Potter.
Avada Kedavra.
The Lion King. Star Wars. The difference is, in each of those examples, the death significantly impacts the main character for the rest of the movie or series.
Luke, trust me.
The purpose of the character who dies ultimately is to change our hero. But to kill off the second most important character in the movie just for a quick thrill? Literally just that? My fucking goodness, what is the point of this character in the movie other than to fill time? It would have been different if they hadn't wasted so much of our time getting to know this character. He could have just been a protector of Ripley's who is then removed from the equation to raise the tension in the second half. But if you're gonna make us care, then make it matter when he dies. Not this. If we needed any more evidence that this script was practicing the WSKTT, here it is. Clemens isn't even the last of it. They do it a third time. As we all know, or as I'm about to have just spoiled for you, Ripley sacrifices herself at the end of the movie. Because, well, we care about Ripley, right? Kill that bitch! Not a single character from the series survives this movie. They were drama fruit ripe for the plucking, and boy were they plucked. The alien tree, once bountiful with beloved characters, is now a dead stump. But I like it. Chapter 4, why do I sort of like it or something? Why would I like that? Spent 87 minutes bitching about that thing. Why would I say that? It's a trash fire. It's a mistake. It's an anthill where the Oreo should be in your Lunchable. Well, firstly, what follows is completely subjective and merely my own personal experience with the film. Secondly, I first saw this movie when I was a kid and have had a lifetime to come to terms with my feelings about the movie. 2.5ly, as a child, this movie was everything that scared me. It was horror exemplified. Picture me, a wee lad with a subtle string of spit up hanging from my mouth, being shown the Alien movies by friends insisting on watching horror films for every single movie night. Great! These movies didn't traumatize me. And when I say they didn't traumatize me, I mean I couldn't go near the McDonald's ball pit for 8.5 months due to my absolute certainty that there was a xenomorph messing around in there. I was so goddamn well adjusted. But thirdly, I came to realize that this movie most closely resembles a nightmare, more than any other horror movie I've seen. But that's essentially what horror movies are. An environment in which we can experience fear and stimulate our brains, but without any actual danger, just like a nightmare. And Alien 3, by whichever definition you choose, is a goddamn nightmare. So I think it deserves some recognition for that portrayal. Here's some other good stuff.
We commit these bodies to the void with a glad heart.
Ripley's trauma over losing Newt is genuinely touching. It's an example of where we can completely empathize with a protagonist. She laments the needless loss of these characters just like we do. Here's another one. This scene is cool because whether or not it was intentional, it's essentially the inverse of the ending of 1. While there, she was completely oblivious that the alien was right in front of her because it blended in with the machinery. Now, after 3 movies, she's become so hyper aware of it that she sees its shape even when it isn't there. I've now finished talking about the things I liked in the movie. Chapter 5, more bad. Why doesn't Ripley tell Tywin about the xenomorph? She tells these 2 dipshits, but then when the one person she trusts asks her,
No.
she seems to withhold this information for no particular reason, and then it kills him. Maybe he would have been a little quicker on his toes if he'd known he should be ready to be eaten by an alien. This is really where the series stops being sci-fi horror and starts being, we'll be generous and call it pulpy, and starts being the operative word. The inmate fuckwits are a cinematic blight. No one gives a shit about them and their stupid vow of celibacy, and that's all made worse by the fact that, thematically speaking, Newt and Hicks died simply as a means to tell this as the third Alien story. Another thing is, there's far too many kills in this movie. We're completely desensitized to it by the end of the movie.
We've 25 prisoners in this facility.
And I also feel like the movie just stops being scary at a certain point and just starts being mean-spirited, just giving you a shitty feeling by the end of it. If a shitty feeling you did not already possess.
Boy, I don't know. The third one was so nihilistic. I mean, that word really fits it. It's like it had so many negatives going for it.
So in the end, Ripley learns she's got a little shithead in her, and she does what any good parent would do. And as Ripley dies, so does the series. Yeah, if only.
This nightmare will never end.
Alien 3 takes the hopeful ending of Aliens and twists it into the worst case scenario that Ripley could possibly imagine. And from what I've read, it was pretty much a goddamn nightmare to make as well.
What was the problem?
There's no one problem with a, $65 million fucked up first time filmmaker. Look, I made a crucial error. I listened to the people who were paying for the movie, and they said the way to go about this is to work with people who've done this time and time and time again, and allow them to tell you what you can't do.
But ultimately, it's fiction, and if you'd prefer that Alien 3 never happened, then it didn't. It just didn't. None of it's real. You decide. It's your brain. In my mind, Alien 3 isn't the definitive conclusion to Aliens. It's a what-if scenario in which we explore a nightmarish alternate fate for these characters that were clearly meant to be left alive at the end of the last movie.
And I think they made a fatal mistake in killing off Newt and Bishop, and you fight so hard for these people to survive, and then you go to the next movie kind of, those guys, I like those guys, they fought so hard, they're warriors, and then, but they're all dead.
But gee, Mr. Nostalgia Boy, you ask, there's gotta be some good characters in it, right? No. All right, Morse is objectively the best part of the movie.
Family! Fuck! Kill someone, you fucking moron! Come on, you, get going. Oh, fuck you.
Also, I've realized in recent viewings that I feel like 85 is one of the most interesting characters here.
Base of the skull. What is it?
I think you've got one inside of you.
He kind of takes over as Ripley's main confidant after Clemens dies. Despite starting out as a bitch, he redeems himself and has probably the best arc in the movie. And in true Alien 3 fashion, he gets done completely dirty in the last 5 minutes of the movie without anyone paying even an ounce of attention to the fact that he died. Something I always forget until I watch this movie again is that 85 does a big bonk on Bishop. My God, he fucks him up. Look at his ear, man. It's not on. Chapter 6. Let's end this now. That was a lot of shit I just said. So, aside from all the negatives, I think the movie is well made and has a lot of good scenes.
Why should we put our ass on the line for you?
Your ass is already on the line. The only question is, what are you gonna do about it?
And look, this is one of those movies. You know the ones. Where it's almost comforting to immerse yourself in a world void of color, joy, and life. It makes the problems we go through in our mundane little lives feel unimportant in comparison. And you either like that kind of movie or you don't. It's completely a matter of taste. There's nothing deeply or disturbingly wrong with you if you do, but do seek help. Nah, don't sweat it. I'm one of those freaks too. I would say it boils down to what you want out of a horror movie. If what you enjoy is watching the world in its most horrific form, then the movie works. However, if you're more concerned with the integrity of storytelling, I'd say it doesn't. Ordinarily, I'd say I'm in the latter camp. But due to very specific circumstances, I enjoy this movie. But I still think it betrays the fans. Though, even if this version of Alien 3 never existed, they probably still would have killed Newton Hicks, because you can't just not kill someone people care about. That's for pussies.
My name is David, and my God, what have I done? It makes no sense because all the hits by me. It was the final film and should have been the best one. Yeah, I'm talking, of course, about Alien 3. Alien 3. Alien 3. Alien 3, forgive me. Alien 3. Alien 3 wasn't meant to be for me. So myth is bold and we're all trapped here on this comet. How come the
I remember going to see it and thinking, rather enjoying it, but equally...
Whatever.
I know.
Alien 3, Alien 3, Alien 3, God help me. Alien 3, stop being me, please. Alien 3, Alien 3, Alien 3, Alien 3, forgive me. Alien 3, Alien 3, wasn't meant to be for. Alien 3, Alien 3, Alien 3, Alien 3, God help me. Alien 3, stop being me, please.
Every time I watch these movies, my opinions kind of like fluctuate.
Yeah, of course.
And I was like, I just want to watch Alien 3. I don't care. I don't want to watch the whole series. And I watched it. I think I really enjoyed it. And then this time around, I watched it. And I was like, this movie fucking sucked. Forgot to swallow. Alien Res. Chapter 1, the stuff that I, to no one's surprise, dislike about the film. Let's start with a segment called Cringy Lines I thought were badass when I was a kid because I was a cringy line.
Fork. Fuck.
I can't believe you did that.
Did what?
You killed one of them. It's like killing your own kind.
It was in my way.
I got a new game. Tag.
Now on to a different yet related segment called Dumb People Doing and Saying Dumb Things. Ripley hits Ron Burgundy with the basketball, and then Hillard throws the basketball at Ripley. Was she now under the impression that basketball was the weapon of choice for this brawl, and she wasn't allowed to use anything else?
Release Dr. Ray! Put down your weapon and assume the fight!
Do you like that?
The ricochet shot? I don't. Why does Purvis wow, his name really is Purvis. Why does Purvis still have an alien inside him when the others were birthed and grew into full-size aliens already? Like, really, this happened, and all these sad fools gave birth to xenomorphs, and then these fully grew, then this happened, then the rest of the movie happened, and then this happened. What am I missing? I mean, we don't really know how long any of this takes, per se, but still don't make sense, do it? This is something I never noticed before. Since when does the alien sound like that? They don't roar, they shriek. It just sounds like a big dumb monster here. Almost as if the series has devolved into big dumb monster movies.
We're moving. I can feel it.
The ship has stealth run. There's no way you can tell.
She's right.
Okay, do you remember when she was all like,
We're moving.
and then he was like,
There's no way you can tell.
and then 2 seconds later, you were like,
She's right.
call, girl, your robot is showing. He just said.
There's no way you can tell.
They all still think you're an android. As far as anyone knows, why do you know that? So Hillard cries right before the scene where she dies. How did you know you were gonna die in this scene? Here's a weird one. When the crew gets to the surface only to discover that it's covered in thick jizz, we pan over to see that there are also eggs waiting for them when they get out. Why show that right now? One thing at a time, man. You've got 2 pieces of tension, and remember, drama's money. The currency of screenwriting is drama. But instead, you blow your wad all at once, and we as viewers can't really process an upcoming threat before we've even dealt with the current one. Would it not have made more sense to focus on them escaping the water and then reveal the eggs after they emerge, like this?
It's a goddamn trap! It's a goddamn ambush!
The dumbest thing about this movie is the acid. Okay, rewind. 2 aliens in a cage kill a third one in order for its acid blood to burn a hole for them to escape through. I like this scene. I always thought it was clever. However, the alien was able to spit acid in Alien 3. So I'm not sure I get the point of them having to kill the third alien. What? It can spit acid in this movie! They couldn't have just... I need my pills. No, the big bottle. It feels like Joss Whedon was just itching to add humor to this movie, so when he finally burst, it just came out as nonsense.
I don't know, we could have them regroup.
Climb up a ladder
maybe.
at this point?
Yeah, that's an option.
And then you see a spider, he shoots in the face.
Why does he do that?
I don't know, I gotta get some air.
What are you doing? Don't do it! Go!
Why did he die? Okay, let me rephrase that. Why did he die? In fact, why didn't he even try to shake the alien off of him? Yeah, it's gonna be really poetic and impactful, you know, because, you know, of course he can't shake the alien off, you know, he can't move his legs. It's the other guy that can't move his legs, right?
Unauthorized opening of...
Can we change that? Movie came out already. Fuck. Chapter 2. There are things I like in this film, and that makes me wonder if I really know myself at all. I like the science stuff at the beginning of the film before the crew arrives, so the first 4%. In all the other movies, there's always the fear that the company will get a hold of it, but here we actually get to see that play out. And it's fascinating to see the process of how they do it. Cloning Ripley and removing the alien surgically, trafficking humans to use as hosts, and trying to tame the aliens in a cage. I would have preferred a movie that was more about this stuff. A much slower burn towards the breaking point. Hell, we don't even see an alien until halfway through Aliens. Even later in Alien, unless you count this little cutie. This part, undeniably, rocks ass.
Listen, if you
Don't you ever shut up!
Once again, I've now finished talking about the things I liked in the movie. I'm going to now revert back to talking about more things that I don't like, and this thing on a high note for you. Chapter 3, Final Hatreds. So, the movie has some interesting bits, but it's delivered in the grossest package imaginable. Everything's got these wacky angles, a disturbing amount of grain, and well, I'm about to say it. I think Clone Ripley leaves something to be desired. With her gross nails and her fingering calls holes. I think it would have been much more interesting if she didn't know that she was a clone or that she shared a connection with the aliens. It could have been a neat mystery for her and us to find out why the hell she's still alive, which could have been revealed late in the movie, but instead...
We've remade you. We've cloned you.
It also would have been more impactful when she finds the failed clones, if this was the first moment she even realized she was a clone. Also, this is a good time to mention something that really has a pine cone up my ass. If they were to have gone with this suggestion, then the title would have spoiled it. Just call it goddamn Alien 4. Subtitles are stupid. They've always been stupid. Stop calling things fucking Dark Legacy and Immortal Kingdom Origins. Let it end. Another issue is too many damn characters. It's the same problem we had in Alien 3. It just becomes a run-of-the-mill slasher movie if you're killing somebody off in every scene like clockwork. So the aliens kidnap Ripley and do something to her.
Oh my god.
Yuck. And then the Queen just does have a human reproductive system.
Ripley's gift to her, a human reproductive system.
I maybe have never seen lazier writing in my whole golly dang life.
We'll fork you too.
Fuck. It's fork.
Just like what Alien 3 did to Aliens, Resurrection completely shits on the legacy of Alien 3. Not something anyone's drowning themselves in tears over, but still. The whole point of the ending of Alien 3 is that Ripley sacrifices herself, and this movie completely negates it. It's a recurring theme that I'm picking up on with these last two mainline movies. Both have really good things to offer, but insist on doing so at the total destruction of their predecessors. Both these movies could have worked really nicely as standalone movies, without Ripley. That way you could have avoided ruining her character and tell whatever story you wanted with the alien. Luckily, I have a solution. This is my time-traveling wristband. Let's go back and fix this. It's broken. There are like very well-crafted shots, but then so many of the shots later on are just, whoa! Oh shit, there's an alien in me! Whoa! 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 Now that the Alien series is dead and they never made a third or fourth one, we can move on to this gem, this classic, this irrefutable work of genius.
I like rocks. I love rocks.
Right, so nothing's perfect, but I enjoy a lot of it. So there's the moment where there's...
She is beautiful.
There's one, if not two, whole moments that don't make me want to be this man at that very moment. Chapter 1, The Good. This movie actually has a lot going for it. The very beginning is actually my favorite part of the movie. Before them all start. I think they did an okay job at recreating the crew dynamic from Alien. Not great. I'll give it a C-, and that's no thanks to her.
2 minutes without a suit, you're dead.
Him.
Right, I almost forgot you're not a real boy, huh?
Or him. It's a lot better than this shit. But we'll get there, baby. Don't worry your stupid little head about it. And the writing, well, look, I'm not gonna name any names, but there's a lot to like about this movie. Watching it directly after Resurrection and the wild ride of 3 arguably bloated extended editions, this had me really appreciating the dedication to making a strong and tightly edited film. Let's talk about some of the best bits. Number 1, David cucks Charlie to death.
I'm confident I can communicate with them, provided your thesis is correct.
Provided it's correct, it's good.
That's why they call it a thesis, Doctor.
What are you smiling about?
All of David's subtle digs at Charlie are amazing to watch.
David, why are you wearing a suit, man?
I beg your pardon?
Okay, the stage is set. Cucking has commenced.
You don't breathe, remember? So, why wear a suit?
I was designed like this because you people are more comfortable interacting with your own kind. If I didn't wear the suit, it would defeat the purpose.
This is peak David dialogue right here. See, we can never know for sure just how real David's emotions are, and the movie constantly rides the line without really revealing it. When Charlie says this,
making you guys pretty close, huh?
David's response,
not too close, I hope,
could mean that he wouldn't want to come close to being human because he's beneath them and it isn't his place. But it can also mean that he considers Charlie to be beneath him and wouldn't want to be considered his equal. And finally, you thought I was joking when I said David cucks Charlie to death, didn't you? Well, David impregnates Charlie's wife even though she's barren, killing him in the process. That's some serious cuck death if ever I've seen it. Number 2, Vickers is savagely squished. Look, I don't want to speak ill of the dead or nothing, but homegirl, let me draw you a diagram. Now, all you need to do is tell me which arrow is smaller and you can live. Number 3, Fifield is killed several times. Fifield is being a goofball. So the crew decide it's best to not run him over, or set him on fire, or shoot him with a shotgun, but rather all 3 simultaneously would be best. And of course, number 4, the cesarean sequence.
Initiating anesthetics.
You probably love it or you hate it. It does not shy away from the bits that make people squeamish, which is most of it. I also really like Shaw's determination in the final act as she just buckles down and does what she's gotta do, despite having just had her fucking womb wrecked. Chapter 2, The Bad. Now for a segment I call People Saying Alarmingly Stupid Things.
You look nervous, Al.
I'm trying to keep my feet on the ground.
Why? Why did she say that?
21% oxygen, traces of argon gas.
Just like home.
Only if you're breathing through an exhaust pipe.
No radio, no heat source. Nobody's home.
Whipping circles, 360.
Here's a bit of a tangent for you. Shaw surviving from the ship falling on her is boo-boo butthole.
Warning, you have 2 minutes of oxygen remaining.
I don't like when characters survive by blind luck, especially when it's a 1 in a billion shot. It means the characters didn't survive at their own hands. They didn't do anything to get out of the situation. They just hoped it would go their way, and then it does because they're lucky. This should be a no-brainer in a movie, but you still see it all the goddamn time. This stopped this. If a character uses their wit or strength to get out of a bind, then we can root for them. But if they get out of it for no other reason than it was in the script, then it's not really a win, is it? You just happened not to lose.
Not to mention, it diminishes all the moments when they did have agency. Which all would have been for naught if the character hadn't survived this one coincidence.
Chapter 3, The Big Picture. So Ridley Scott thought we needed to know the origin of the space jockey.
There's one question no one asked in all 4 movies, much to my amazement. Who's the big guy in the seat?
Listen, Rids. Can I call you Rids? Look, Ridsky, some people think this was obsessing over a minor detail, whereas others thought it was the missing link to human happiness all over the world. I'm not very opinionated on this subject either way. I thought it was a cool idea to show the origin of the alien ship.
I also thought it would be cool to get rich and be Spider-Man when I grew up and have 6 dicks.
Instead of the origin of the space jockey, this movie is the origin of nothing in particular at all. We see the origin of the xenomorph, maybe, but it doesn't look right. And this fuckboy gets morphed pretty bad.
So he's definitely not this Peter Griffin-ass looking motherfucker. Also, they completely start from scratch with the xenomorph in the next movie anyway, so this little guy goes in the bin.
My theory was that Shaw would eventually be the one in the suit here. It would be an interesting irony because the first alien we see in the series would have actually been a human. And I thought reimagining the space jockey to be a suit worked flawlessly. That would have been the perfect way to hide the fact that it was Shaw all along, in this sort of Final Destination 5-esque twist. Look, if you know, you know. But Radonsky never did a goddamn thing with any of these ideas, and instead he rebranded the whole thing back into Alien for the next one.
We took on a different direction.
So worth it. Would he have paid any of these ideas off if Prometheus had been more successful? We may never know. Or will we? I've retrofitted the time-traveling wristband so now it can go to alternate universes too. It also works. Ooh, I'm tuned into a universe much like our own, except in this one, Prometheus broke $1 billion at the box office. Right now, Alt-Me is doing a video essay on Prometheus 2. Let's ask him about it. Hey buddy.
Wow.
How's it going? It's me, you. Say, did Ridley Scott ever do anything with all those great ideas from Prometheus?
He didn't do anything with any of it.
Wow, thrilling stuff. Bye, me. Whew, it's good to be back after such a long trip. This fucking piece of shit. Well, that settles it. On to Alien Covenant. Dude, I don't know if I can keep doing this.
What? This video?
All of this. The channel, living. All right, let's just do this for fast. On to Alien Covenant. The sequel to something? Chapter 1, The Bad, aka Missed Opportunities, aka the film Alien Covenant. That which could have been Prometheus 2, except, well, I don't know if Redonkadonk was ever considering calling it that.
You've just announced the title of the next film. Why is it called Alien Paradise Lost?
Well, because we're heading back to why and how and when the beast was invented. We'll go back in to the back door of the very first Alien that I did.
Okay, what was that gonna be about? No.
So I felt he was done. I felt it shouldn't be dead and should be running.
Okay, well, he realized that people were still interested in Alien, the highly successful film franchise that was the reason people were interested in Prometheus in the first place. But his tragically misguided mistake,
I mean, could have been these dipshits, I'll keep an open mind,
was in thinking that because we like xenomorphs, that he should completely abandon Prometheus, as if the two are mutually exclusive.
Prometheus was a very grand idea. You gotta follow through. And so it's part of that. The questions are answered there.
So he decided to just make it a remake of Alien, but with some kind of sort of ties to Prometheus 2.
Prometheus 2?
No. No. And the result is... well, it's something. But that's not all. At the same time as Alien Covenant was in production, they were also working on another Alien film directed by Neil Blomkamp that would replace Alien 3 as a sequel to Aliens, featuring Ripley, Hicks, and Newt 2 maybe. Who knows? There's limitless possibilities! Well, no point in dwelling on that any longer, it's dead. Actually, let's dwell on it a little longer. Remember how in my last video I said that Alien 3 was like an alternate reality nightmare? Well, this film could have literally been that version in which Alien 3 turned out to only be one theoretical timeline. We could have seen those fuckers live another day. And the nail in the dick about this is that Fox decided to go all in on Covenant, and so we got this instead of this. Chapter 2, The Good, aka This Must Be a Typo. We get to see more Michael Fassbender, this time playing dual roles as David and Walter, and yeah, he sure is kissing himself. The movie starts with the most Prometheus thing you'll ever see in this movie. Or in Prometheus. It's a flashback of David being booted up for the first time as far as I can tell, and essentially being born.
How do you feel? Alive.
David is one of the most interesting characters in all of Alien. This scene is so awesome because it shows David in his first moments of life, and Weyland immediately resents him for being immortal.
You will die. I will not.
Sending David down a path of resenting his inability to create life. Really, the two resent each other for what the other has. I love Weyland's childish demand that David bring him the tea that's right next to him.
Bring me this tea, David.
This scene also informs Prometheus quite a bit as well. In hindsight, it feels like a necessary foundation for why David does the things he does.
There's a man sitting with you today. His name is David. He is the closest thing to a son I will ever have. Unfortunately, he is not human. He will never grow old, and he will never die. And yet he is unable to appreciate these remarkable gifts. For that would require the one thing that David will never have: a soul.
We also recently had a discussion about which is the best android in the series.
David,
is he a good robot or a bad robot? It's tough to say because there's different ways that you can look at that.
It depends, yeah. Right?
Morally,
right.
Programming,
right.
And cinematically.
So programming wise, the worst android, oh fuck. Programming wise, I would have to say Bishop.
Wow, that's crazy. I can't believe he said that. I wonder why he said that.
If you want to see the full discussion, we're holding it hostage at patreon.com/nostalgiac. Anyway, more on the scene later.
Spoiler alert, at the end, it's not Walter on the ship with them anymore, it's David. David's Walton switch is cleverly set up. There's his accent.
Where's David?
Expired. Not volunteering to do this.
Open the door!
Not knowing where these are kept.
Yeah, shot. Give me a shot.
Chopping this whole thing off.
Walter's supposed to be able to heal, and yet David spends the entire last sequence of the movie still with this bandage on his face. The use of the word duty.
It's my duty.
But they keep you guessing. The best part of this diversion, though, is the fact that it's set up how much David clearly cares about the aliens he creates. So when he doesn't flinch at helping the humans kill one, that seemingly clinches it.
But it turns out that's only because he's got his eyes on the bigger, juicier prize of 2,000 colonists to fuck around with.
Some smart aleck in the test said, I knew something was going to happen. I said, yeah, of course you do, you idiot. Because if you're going to have two there, there's bound to be something happens, duh. That's justifies a duh.
Chapter 3, a shitstorm cataloged.
The movie's bad. Damn bad. Let's take a look at some reasons to hate this movie, which may or may not be your reasons, because, let's face it, you hate it. Whether you know it or not, you do. 1. It's another one of those fun retreads of the original that we've definitely told Hollywood to keep making. Complete with budget Dallas and Dollar Tree Ripley, as well as the least frightening xenomorph I've ever seen, and I've played Alien Colonial Marines. 2. Why is this happening? 3. The movie keeps using the alien theme, which is not a smart comparison to draw because it brings my attention to how inferior this movie is, how not this is, if you follow me. 4. Killing the alien doesn't feel earned. In the other ones, the alien is the main threat throughout the entire movie. Here, the time it takes for the xenomorph to be born, grow, die, a second xenomorph to be born, grow, and die is 26 minutes 48 seconds, where they speed run the entire story of Alien. I don't feel the relief that they feel. You know, it's almost insulting. Ripley had to overcome so much to finally kill the thing in each of the previous movies. Whereas here, these two fight it for 5 seconds.
Let's kill this fucker.
And they're all, oh my gosh, I had such a time fighting that alien. Such a long time it took to kill him. Golly.
I honestly didn't hate this third act, which a lot of people seem to.
Dumb, stupid alien fun. But my main reason for despising it isn't any of those listed. I was here for a Prometheus sequel. And a Prometheus sequel it is technically. Like having your teeth bashed in with a rock is technically a dentist. But wowsy.
Anyway, back to this scene of David's first birthday bash. Guy Pearce reprises his role as Wayland Man,
this time not featuring the Dark Crystal-esque makeup. I'm not sure why they cast Guy Pearce for Prometheus. I love Guy Pearce, but you never see him without the old man makeup, so you could have just gotten an old guy. We actually do see him without the makeup in a deleted scene for Prometheus, but who cares? Without that, it's just this. Speaking of deleted scenes, Shaw. Shaw is a deleted scene.
You know, the main character.
Okay, so back up. Before the movie came out, it was announced that they were going to be making a Prometheus 2. Noomi Rapace and Michael Fassbender would be reprising their roles as Shaw and David. Holy titty tuggers, that sounds awesome. Every detail of this would eventually be retracted. First they changed the name, Prometheus 2.
Alien Paradise Lost.
Alien Covenant. Then Noomi Rapace was lowered on the cast list, and then it was announced that she would not appear in the film at all. It just keeps getting better. But get this, she is in it-ish.
After we made contact with the engineers, I escaped with Elizabeth in one of their ships.
Her entire presence in the movie is this one deleted scene. I'm sorry, prologue short film. Oh wait, she is in the movie. There she is. How dare you kill my girl Shaw in this fashion? How? Okay, let me just get all of this situated, because it's not going great in there. David plays the Prometheus tune on his flute. A tribute to Shaw, and it's actually quite a sweet moment, but it's followed up by this winner of a scene.
Is that how it's done?
No, I don't. No. I mean, it kind of makes sense in a way. If David is obsessed with creation, then he may have developed an interest in procreation as well, but all this does is reduce him to an embryo-twirling villain as opposed to the complex character he was in Prometheus.
If I didn't wear the suit, it would defeat the purpose.
Okay. It felt like they needed a villain, so they just made it him. But Prometheus was more complex than that. David, Vickers, and Wayland all did shitty things, but none of them were one-dimensional. Except for this fuckwit. I do find this notion of him gradually corrupting to be interesting.
Who wrote Ozymandias?
Byron.
Shelley. When one note is off, it eventually destroys the whole symphony, David.
And so, yet again, just like with Alien 3 and Resurrection, as a standalone movie, this story works, just not as a continuation to Prometheus.
Chapter 4, Why Shaw's Death is a Cinematic Crime.
Side tangent number 378 on this channel. It's hard enough to get a movie made, but it is a Herculean feat to also gain actual genuine interest from your audience. You. And you. You had me. You had my interest. I liked Shaw. Despite the flaw collage that was Prometheus, you had something with her, and you wasted it. You tossed her away like garbage. Side tangent number, what did I just say? 841. You may remember from my Alien 3 video that I blacked out and ranted about killing off legacy characters for 132 minutes. Well, shit. Redondo sure didn't learn any lessons from that fever dream, did he? Prometheus has many issues, but the relationship between Shaw and David was what saved it for me. They have this sort of frenemy relationship where throughout the whole movie, he's the one in control, and yet they seem to have a kind of affinity for one another. And then in the end, she's the one in control because he got himself a couple of scrapes along the way. And their final exchange here is her roasting him for being a dumb, stupid android.
I don't understand.
I guess that's because I'm a human being.
And my interpretation is that she feels bad for him in that moment.
I'm sorry.
That's quite all right.
Or maybe she's just apologizing for putting him in the luggage.
That's why I love this pair so much. He killed her husband, and she's keeping his head in a bag. But gosh, do you feel like they kind of like each other? I mean, just take a look at this from the deleted prologue short.
I'm doing my best.
You're very kind at heart, you know.
So let me get this good and goddamn straight. Shaw decides to trust David again, but in the end, he betrays her trust. Already, I would have rather seen that movie than this.
We never should have come.
That actually sounds like an interesting premise for a movie. That dynamic is actually something compelling. Again, you had something, and you decided to do nothing. You kill Shaw off screen, collapsing the best thing that your movie had going for it. Then you delete the scene she's in and reduce her character to this. And this is the only thing you have to show for it? Well, fart on my thighs and feed me bacon. I was over here thinking it was gonna be something stupid. Color me corrected. But that brings us to arguably the worst aspect of this storyline. That's right, I'm not even done yet. Chapter 5, David's plan. aka the evolution of the xenomorph, aka I want a crocodile to please eat my penis off of my body. So David, a man, machine, thingy, obsessed with science and aliens and learning and creation and goo,
Big things have small beginnings.
has the opportunity to embark on a scientific expedition to meet a brand new civilization of aliens and learn from them, a people who they themselves are obsessed with creation and invented the goo that you love so much, by the way. And what does he do? He drops 150,000 canisters of goo on them, annihilating the entire species instantly. And this was presumably to experiment with the evolutionary properties of the goo. So you had millions of people to experiment on, but better kill your one and only friend too, cause one more really ought to make the difference. But here's the thing, Dave.
As we know, the engineers all turned into Captain Crunch, and evolution is an iterative process.
In order to evolve the alien, you need to cultivate many generations.
Which means Captain Crunch is only the first step in that evolutionary chain.
Meaning you goo one idiot,
let's say this guy,
then you use the monstrosity that they birthed to goo up a new monstrosity, and so on. So then, how in the hell ass shit balls could using it on every single person on the planet all at once possibly be beneficial? All he would have gotten is a million versions of the same thing. Oops, all berries. He blew his goo all at once for nothing.
There's so many interesting things they could have done with this concept of meeting an alien race, but it's almost like it was too interesting and the writers got scared, so they just eliminated the possibility of exploring it.
Let's say he didn't blow his goo, right? Let's say he came in peace. Would they be peaceful? If not, how would he gain their trust? Well, seems like an awfully interesting premise for a movie. Let me tell you what I think would have been the best story for this movie.
Chapter 6, Prometheus 2.
Shaw and David land on the planet and are greeted by friendly engineer people, because maybe the ones who run the murder moon are more like Wayland on Earth, a heartless organization working in secret. Then Shaw and David engage in a philosophical duel over what to do now that they've made contact.
By day, David learns more about the goo from a scientist, let's say this guy, and then he
sneaks out at night like Jack the Ripper, capturing and experimenting on innocent engineers to satiate his obsession with creating the perfect organism. He eventually succeeds, but Shaw catches him and has big feelings about it. The xenomorph escapes, and they're ultimately forced to work together to kill it,
but then there's just one single facehugger remaining. The scientist from earlier turns out to be a secret asshole, sneaks aboard Shaw and David's ship, and discovers the murder mooners' plan to exterminate humans. He then decides it's his life purpose to carry out the mission by flying the ship to Earth. David has a change of heart, chases after the scientist, and boards the ship just before it takes off, resulting in a fight between the two. David loses and is ripped in two, his bottom half remaining aboard while his top half falls down to the planet's surface. Satisfied with his victory, the scientist engineer approaches David's lower half. Suddenly, he hears something moving beneath David's uniform. The engineer pulls back David's uniform to discover a hollowed-out chest and a wriggling facehugger inside, a trap set by David. It leaps at the engineer and wraps around his face, causing him to collapse and eventually go limp. Back on the surface, Shaw finds David's body. In his final moments, David expresses that he wanted to create something new, something worthy of his creator, but ultimately that it was futile. To which Shaw replies, "So did I," and then David dies. In the final scene, back on the ship, the engineer awakens, seemingly unharmed. He goes to the pilot seat. As he navigates the on-screen computer, suddenly he feels a pain in his chest. It's too late. The space jockey suit encloses him, trapping him. He begins to writhe in his suit. Finally, the alien bursts out of his chest and the suit from within. We see that the ship is now off course. He continues to writhe until he is dead. The alien, a queen, screeches and then runs away. The ship careens into space. This is the engineer bound for LV-426. You could also tell this story as a trilogy instead, but let's just assume that this is Alien and the next film's just gonna shit on whatever we do here, so better get it right in one.
Chapter 7. The video's still not over yet. Let me just rant for a second about goo and dust. What exactly are the limitations of the goo? What can it do? What can't it do? And is the dust an evolution of the goo? Did you need 1 billion hosts to turn goo into dust? Does goo always become dust? When does goo not become dust? Come on, this is an Alien sequel. There's plenty more bad. But I'll just leave you with this. There's a killing spree at about 50 minutes in, and goddamn is it funny. It's not supposed to be. How did the company find out about the alien in the first place? Did they know about it in Aliens when they decided to terraform SR-388 or what is it called? LV-426? Or even before that in Alien when the Nostromo was ordered to investigate the planet? Did the company know that the little goofball was rolling around down there? I'd love to know the answers to these questions. Seems like an interesting premise for a movie. By now, I've probably screamed at you enough for your neighbors to get what I'm driving at. Ridley Scott could have done one of several different things, any one of which would have been an extremely compelling follow-up to Prometheus, which ended essentially on a cliffhanger, leaving us curious as to where Shaw and David's journey would take them and how their relationship would develop. And he chose to, instead, fill the runtime with the concerns of dumbasses. Can you call my mom to come pick me up? Alien Romulus has more references than Deadpool and Wolverine. Wow, that sounds like a bunch of clickbait bullshit, but we'll get to that. Chapter 1, would I recommend it? On the whole, I'd say yes. I've seen it twice now because I had to leave to get an icy, and when I came back, I'd missed all kinds of shit. When I watched it the first time, I thought it was terrible. And then when I saw it a second time, I enjoyed it quite a bit, which I think this is a problem with rewatching movies. Rewatching movies is sort of a double-edged sword. I want to say it's the most fair way to critique a movie because you go into it with no false expectations. Your expectations are exactly equal to what you're going to get. So you can't be disappointed. But at the same time, I feel like we forgive a lot of the flaws of movies when we rewatch them because of that fact. And those flaws don't go away, we just pay less attention to them. So it's a little tricky. I usually don't watch movies twice in such quick succession, but I do think you should watch it whether you're a fan of the Alien series or not. Because if you are a fan, I mean, you're just gonna wanna see it and see what it's all about. If you're not a fan, I think you might actually enjoy it more because a lot of the problems that I have relate to it being a piece of this larger series. But if you're not concerned with the spectacle of the movie theater, then honestly, I think you could wait for streaming. I think comedies and horror movies are the best movies to experience in the theater, but it's really not that scary. Although that's coming from me, and ever since the ball pit era, there's really nothing that can make me feel anymore. What did I like about it? The two main leads definitely grew on me watching it a second time. I think that the movie looks great. The CGI looks okay. The sets and the props all look amazing. I think that they're really well matched with the aesthetic of Alien. The way that they made everything look so dirty and used, and the lighting complements it. Really well done there. They really play up the practical effects quite a bit, especially like, you know, the weapons and things, and there is a practical xenomorph, practical face huggers, but as usual, they're almost always entirely glopped over with CGI, but there still are the occasional scenes where you can tell that it's real. Not to get into the negative before we're even in the negative chapter, but I think that every studio exec has a little creature living in their ass that bites them anytime they see practical effects. It's an obsession and a compulsion. They can't help themselves. Everything has to eventually be, quotes, enhanced with CGI because it's not, quotes, realistic enough. Even though I can instantly spot CGI, and there are practical effects that are decades old that still hold up. So anyway, spoilers from now on.
What's the problem? There's problems with the story, with the characters, with needless references to the originals, but all of this I think can pretty much be wrapped up in one big umbrella problem, which is that the movie lacks any semblance of
subtlety.
In the original, we had a small cast of characters and a very simple premise, and all of the characters were extremely realistic and grounded from the beginning, and we have a very slow burn that builds up to the excitement. Here, they are thrusting excitement at us from the very beginning. For example, Bjorn doesn't like Andy because, as Kay just says at us, Bjorn has a tragic history with androids. Which one is Bjorn, you might be asking, even if you've seen the movie? Well, that is kind of my point. All of this stuff is fine, it's just that it is thrown at us way before we have a chance to care about any of them. Not to mention the fact that Bjorn's prejudice against Andy is completely dropped before it has a chance to be significant in any way. And speaking of the subtlety problem, the setting, it's this massive sci-fi planet, and it's just like, you compare this with this, and there's a reason that the original is so successful, is because we have a chance to feel like something here is real, like this is a real scenario, because it's just people sitting around on a ship. Other than the fact that it's a spaceship, it's completely believable and relatable, but here it's so far removed from anything we can relate with. And obviously, this isn't the same movie as Alien. They're asking for comparison, of course, but you know what? Let's just give them the old B of the D. Let's just say, the scale of this movie is not the same as the original. But the characters themselves lack subtlety as well. And as far as the action and the thrills, I think it's just, we can only really process so much. The first 20 minutes of the movie has more spectacle than all of Alien combined. So by the time we even see the alien, we've already been exposed to so much stimulation that it doesn't really feel like much, to me anyway. But this brings us to the biggest lack of subtlety in this movie, which is the references. Okay, call me naive, but I kind of thought we were over this crap. I mean, seriously, you're bringing Ian Holm back after he's passed away to be this horrible looking recreation of Ash in the form of a different android named Rook. It is the worst thing I've ever seen. It is worse than Luke from season 2 of The Mandalorian. His expressions just do not work right. His eyeline is never right. To Snapchat his face on top of it is just, it's morbid. If you want to do a cheeky reference or a callback, it at least has to feel realistic in the world of the movie. But when you see things like this, you immediately know that they weren't concerned with realism, they were only concerned with the reference. But the worst part about this is that Rook actually says Ash's fucking line from Alien 1.
I can't lie to you about your chances, but you have my sympathies.
Technically, he might say that same thing, but you can't bullshit me. I know what you're doing. And I don't want to know what you're doing. I want it to feel like a movie, not a talk show with a surprise guest. I want to feel like it's a real world with real people. As soon as you start reciting lines from the original films for no reason, I'm completely taken out of it. But as far as referencey lines, the next one takes the cake for me. Andy really does say,
"Get away from her, you bitch!"
And my eyes rolled so far back into my fucking skull. And I know the point of it is not to make sense. The point is for us to hoot and holler and choke on our popcorn, but to me, when you're doing things like this, it stops being a movie. It's a charade. It's the filmmakers reaching out of the screen saying, "Do you get it?" and poking us in the eye until we agree to clap. The whole point is that a movie has to follow some kind of set of rules, otherwise we can't possibly believe it, unless it's a movie like Deadpool and Wolverine. The premise of that movie is that he points out that it's a movie. But like 99% of movies want you to believe what you're seeing. How am I supposed to do that when the characters are quoting lines from the series? Now, references, obviously that word could mean many things, but I'm using that word to mean moments in a movie that break the reality in order to share a gag with you.
Deadpool and Wolverine never breaks the reality of the movie because the movie is about the fact that the characters know they're in a movie. Deadpool being self-referential makes complete sense. But the references in Romulus rely solely on coincidence. And just because these coincidences are technically possible doesn't make them believable. This is technically possible. And then they actually brought back the xenomorph from Alien 1. He really didn't die. And then he survived in like a meteor, and then they extracted his Prometheus goo, but the Prometheus mission failed and everybody died, so why would they know about the Prometheus goo? How did they find out about that? Why is it just a coincidence that they called it that? And why does the goo baby look like an engineer? Just because the engineers made the goo doesn't mean that it should look like an engineer. And then the goo made the rat heal, but then it turned into a piece of shit. But then Kay didn't turn into a piece of shit. She just had a baby that was a piece of shit. What did I think of the characters? I don't know. Like I said, the main two grew on me. I think Rain is a little too traumatized for trauma's sake. I also think that Rain betraying Andy off camera so early in the movie doesn't make sense with her character. He's obviously the most important person in her life. I think it would have been better if she was more of a morally gray character from the beginning, because not only would her betrayal make more sense, she would have a stronger arc at the end of the movie when she decides to rescue him, which is a nice moment, but I wasn't surprised when she made that decision. All the other characters, it's just, I don't want to blame anyone in particular. Maybe they're not given enough time to rehearse. They're just kind of hollow. They're just, you know, whispery little dreamers who are very concerned and sweary and yelly all the time. The actors don't believe that they are the characters. Something that they teach actors that, I don't know if I believe it, is that every moment should be life or death. But that's bullshit. Not every moment in life is life or death. Just watch Alien. Most of the moments in the first half are not life or death. These characters are just being alive, and that's what makes them feel real. They have range. It's not just heavy breathing and conflict at all times for no reason. That's probably why these actors don't believe it. That's not real life. But having said all that, I think the movie has a decent amount to offer. I think the main two leads alone make the movie worth seeing. Going forward, I think another movie with the two of them could be interesting. Do it. Whatever, I don't know.
Thoughts on Alien Romulus? I mean, the first thing I have to bring up,
the design choice of being in a space station and still managing to feel claustrophobic was really well done, and also the centerpiece of the facehuggers for the first 30 to 40 minutes I thought was a good choice. I was not the biggest fan of the CGI face on Ian Holm, but I don't mind that was the model of android used for scientific studies.
Out of all the scenes in the movie, what was your favorite? It may be a collection of scenes. What were your favorites?
Oh, that's a good question. There are really so many.
I like the scene where Rain goes back to save Andy. I also enjoyed the moment when she shot the xenomorphs in anti-gravity, though it, technically speaking, a little unrealistic.
Did you have any particular thoughts about like the characters in the movie, or?
It's a really, really good question. I think majority of it, where you might have like missed something.
Andy was my favorite character because the android character always has the most interesting scenes and usually has the best actors.
How do you create tension in a shot when he's looking for the cat? Why is like the shot lined up so well? Like why is
like
that creating tension? It told me that he's about to fucking die.
He is looking at Jonesy, and there's a bunch of space to his right.
Yeah.
And we automatically know if there's nothing there, there's going to be something there. Because he should be hugging that frame otherwise.
Oh.
Should be looking towards where there's more space, if it's a traditional scene. Like we're framed right now, I'm hugging the right side of the frame. You're hugging the left side of the frame, which is how you typically want it unless you're trying to create tension. Another shot I really love is at the very end.
Yeah.
Lambert's like stacking the fuel cells or whatever like that. And it just looks like a car headlight on her. It's just like, it's just this spotlight on her. And she realizes that it's over there. It's such a, never seen a shot like that. It's just, because I think it gives us this feeling of like, you are
or
like.
the deer.
Yeah, a deer in
Yeah,
headlights,
yeah.
right. I think it just sort of viscerally translates to us that it's like, that
She's
it's
prey.
over there. Yeah, and it's watching her, and it takes her that whole shot to realize it.